November 1996, Carmel, California, 3:47 a.m. Clint Eastwood sits in his kitchen staring at a phone that won't stop ringing. He knows who it is. He knows what happened. And in the next 72 hours, he will make a decision that breaks every rule Hollywood has about scandal, image, and protecting your legacy. Because sometimes being a father means sacrificing everything you've built, even if it destroys you. The phone rings again. Clint picks up. It's the Monterey County Sheriff. "Mr. Eastwood, we have your son. He's been arrested. Possession with intent to distribute. He's asking for you." Clint doesn't ask questions. He just says, "I'll be there in 20 minutes. He hangs up, puts on his jacket, drives to the station in complete silence. Kyle Eastwood is 28 years old, talented jazz bassist, Clint's eldest son. And for the past 6 years, he's been disappearing. Not physically. He still shows up to family dinners, still calls on birthdays, but there's something missing in his eyes. Something hollow. Something Clint recognized but didn't want to name. Until now. Until a police officer is walking Kyle out in handcuffs and Kyle can't even look at him. Clint doesn't speak. He posts bail, signs the papers, walks Kyle to the car. They drive home in silence. 37 minutes without a single word. Because what do you say when your son just threw his life away? What do you say when you're Clint Eastwood, the man who built a career on discipline and control, and your own child couldn't control anything? They pull into the driveway. Kyle starts to get out. Clint's voice stops him. Not yet. Kyle freezes, his hand on the door handle, waiting. "You're going to tell me everything," Clint says. "And I mean everything. How long? How bad? Who you're using with? All of it." Kyle's jaw tightens. "You don't want to know." "Yes, I do." "Why? So you can judge me? So you can tell me I'm weak? So you can add this to the list of ways I've disappointed you?" The words hit like bullets. Clint absorbs them, doesn't flinch, doesn't argue, just waits. Finally, Kyle breaks. 3 years. Heroin at first, then cocaine, then whatever I could get. I tried to stop, I swear I tried, but every time I got close, I'd think about you. About how perfect you are, how you never fail, how everyone looks at you like you're some kind of god. And I'd realize I'll never be that. I'll never be enough. So why bother trying? Clint sits with this, lets it settle. Then he says something Kyle will remember for the rest of his life. "I'm not perfect. I'm just better at hiding my failures than you are." Kyle looks at him, really looks at him for the first time in years. What failures? Clint doesn't answer immediately. He just stares out the windshield at his house. The house he bought with money from playing cowboys and killers. The house that represents everything he built, everything he's supposed to protect. "I failed your mother," Clint says quietly. "I failed your brother. I failed you. I chose work over family. I chose my legacy over being present. And now you're sitting here telling me you used drugs because you felt like you'd never measure up. That's not your failure, Kyle. That's mine." Kyle's eyes fill with tears. "Dad, I'm the one who..." "No, I'm the one who made you feel like love was conditional, like you had to earn it by being perfect, and I'm sorry." They sit in the car for another 20 minutes, not talking, just existing together in the weight of it. Finally, Clint says, "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to rehab, 90 days minimum, and when you get out, you're going to work for me." Kyle blinks. "What? You heard me. You're going to work on my next film, on set, every day, where I can see you, where I can make sure you're staying clean." Kyle shakes his head. "Dad, that's insane. The press will destroy you. They'll say you're enabling me. They'll say you're risking the production. They'll say, I don't care what they say." The next morning, Clint calls his agent, Tom Rooker. 30 years of representation, hundreds of deals negotiated. "Tom, I'm bringing Kyle onto blood work as my assistant." There's a long silence. "Clint, he was just arrested." "I know. This is career suicide. You're about to start a $70 million Warner Brothers production. If Kyle relapses on set, if he causes any problems, the studio will pull the plug. They'll blame you. Your reputation will be destroyed." "I know. Then why are you doing this?" "Because he's my son. And I'm not losing him to protect my image." Tom tries one more time. "Clint, there are professionals, facilities, programs designed for this. Send him away. Let him heal somewhere private, somewhere the media can't touch him. When he's better, when he's stable, then bring him back into your life. But not like this. Not on a film set. Clint's response is final. I already lost him once by sending him away, by being absent. I'm not doing it again. If he's going to heal, he's going to heal where I can see him, where I can be the father I should have been. Tom sighs. Okay, but when this blows up, and it will blow up, don't say I didn't warn you. Kyle spends 93 days in rehab. Clint visits every Sunday. He doesn't bring scripts, doesn't talk about work, just sits with his son. Sometimes they talk, sometimes they don't. On the last day, Clint brings Kyle's bass guitar. You're going to need this, he says. Kyle looks at the instrument he hasn't touched in 3 years. I don't know if I can still play. Only one way to find out. March 2002. Bloodwork begins production. The cast includes Jeff Daniels, Angelica Houston, Wanda DeJesus. Experienced professionals. A tight crew. Everyone knows the film is about a retired FBI profiler who receives a heart transplant and then investigates his donor's murder. It's dark, it's personal, and it's Clint's first film since Space Cowboys 2 years ago. The pressure is enormous. On the first day, Clint introduces Kyle to the crew. This is my son. He's going to be my assistant. Anything I need, he'll handle. Treat him like you'd treat me. The crew exchanges glances. They've all heard the rumors. They know about the arrest. They know this is unusual, but nobody says anything because this is Clint Eastwood. And when Clint Eastwood tells you something, you listen. Kyle's job is simple in theory. Get coffee, distribute call sheets, handle logistics. But in practice, it's excruciating because every single person on that set is watching him, waiting for him to fail, waiting for him to disappear into a bathroom and not come out, waiting to confirm what they already believe, that addicts can't be trusted, that Clint made a mistake. On day 4, Kyle is late to set, only 15 minutes. But in film production, 15 minutes is an eternity. The crew waits. Clint waits. Nobody says anything. Finally, Kyle arrives. His face is pale. His hands are shaking. He doesn't offer an excuse. Just walks straight to Clint. I'm sorry, I overslept. It won't happen again. Clint looks at him, studies him. Then he nods. Okay, that's it. No lecture, no punishment, just okay. And somehow that's worse, because Kyle knows his father is trusting him, and trust is heavier than judgment. That night, Kyle finds Clint in his trailer. Can we talk? They sit across from each other. Kyle's hands are still shaking. I almost used today, he says. I woke up, and the first thing I thought about was getting high. And I was late because I spent 20 minutes in my car trying to decide whether to drive to set or drive to my dealer's house. Clint doesn't react, doesn't panic, just asks, "What made you choose set?" Kyle's voice breaks. You. I thought about you sitting here waiting for me, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't let you down again. Clint stands up, walks over, sits next to his son. You're not letting me down? You're fighting. That's all I ask. Keep fighting. But what if I can't? What if I relapse? What if I mess this up? Then we'll deal with it. Together. But you're not doing this alone anymore. That's the difference. Kyle breaks down. Clint holds him. And for the first time in 3 years, Kyle cries. Really cries. Not the performative tears of rehab, but the deep, bone-shaking grief of a man who thought he lost himself and is only now beginning to find his way back. The weeks pass. Kyle shows up every day. Some days are good. He's focused, present, helpful. Other days are brutal. He's withdrawn, fighting invisible battles. But he shows up. That's the key. He shows up. The crew begins to notice. They see the way Clint watches Kyle. Not with suspicion, with attention, with care. They see the way Kyle works. Quietly, without seeking praise, just doing the job. One afternoon, they're filming a scene on a boat. Clint's character, Terry McCaleb, is investigating a crime scene. It's technically complex. Multiple cameras, water reflections, continuity challenges. Everything has to be perfect. In the middle of the take, Kyle notices something, a prop gun that wasn't properly secured. It's sitting on the edge of the boat deck. If someone steps wrong, it'll fall into the water. $15,000 prop, destroyed. Kyle moves quickly, grabs the gun, secures it. Nobody notices except Clint. After the take, Clint walks over. Good catch. Kyle shrugs. Just doing my job? No, you were paying attention. Most people aren't paying attention. They're thinking about lunch or their next scene or what they're doing after wrap. But you were present? That matters. Kyle looks at his father. Is that how you direct? By paying attention? Clint nods. That's how you do everything. You pay attention. To people. To details. To what's not being said. That's the difference between being there and actually being present. Halfway through production, a tabloid journalist shows up. She's been tipped off about Kyle, about the arrest, about Clint bringing him onto set. She wants a story. Clint finds her talking to a PA near Craft Services. He walks over. His face is calm, but there's steel underneath. You need to leave. The journalist smiles. Mr. Eastwood, I'm just doing my job. So am I. And my job is to protect my crew. That includes my son. This is a closed set. So I'm going to ask you one more time. Leave. She doesn't leave. She starts asking questions about Kyle, about the arrest, about whether Clint is worried about relapse, about whether this is fair to the other cast members. Clint doesn't raise his voice, doesn't threaten, just looks at her. And in that look, she sees something that makes her reconsider. She sees a father, not a celebrity, not a director. Just a father who will do whatever it takes to protect his child. She leaves. That night, Kyle asks, "Why did you do that?" Do what? Defend me. You could have just let her write the story. Let people think what they want. That's what most people do. Clint pours 2 glasses of water, hands one to Kyle. I don't care what people think. I care about you. And I'm not going to let anyone use your pain for entertainment. But doesn't it hurt your reputation, having an addict son on set? Probably. But reputation is just what strangers think of you. Legacy is what your family remembers. And I'd rather have you remember that I fought for you than have strangers remember me as the guy who made good westerns. Kyle stares at the glass in his hand. For years, I thought you didn't care. I thought you chose movies over me, over all of us. I was angry, and I used that anger as an excuse to destroy myself. Clint nods slowly. You had a right to be angry. I wasn't the father you needed. I was ambitious, selfish. I told myself I was providing for you, but really I was just avoiding being present. Because being present is hard. It's messy. It requires you to be vulnerable. And I didn't know how to do that. But you're doing it now. Clint looks at his son. I'm trying. Same as you. As production continues, something unexpected happens. Kyle starts contributing creatively, not in big ways, just small observations, a line of dialogue that feels off, a camera angle that could be better, a performance choice that isn't landing. At first, he's hesitant to speak up, but Clint encourages him. If you see something, say something. This is collaborative, so Kyle starts speaking. And the crew starts listening, because his observations are good, they're thoughtful, they come from someone who's paying attention. One day, they're filming a scene where McCaleb confronts a suspect. The actor, a veteran character actor named Paul Rodriguez, is playing it angry, loud, aggressive, but it's not working. It feels one-dimensional. Clint calls cut, calls Paul over. They talk quietly, but they can't find the right adjustment. Kyle watches from the side. Finally, he approaches. Dad, can I say something? Clint nods. What if he's not angry? What if he's scared? Afraid that if McCaleb keeps digging, he'll uncover something worse, so the aggression is just a mask. Underneath, he's terrified. Clint considers this. He sits there for 40 minutes, The set is 100 yards away. He can see the lights, hear the muffled voices. He thinks about his father, about the trust Clint placed in him, about the crew who's starting to respect him, about the life he's building, slowly, painfully, but building. And he thinks about what his father said. Keep fighting. Finally, Kyle gets out of the car, walks back to set. Clint sees him return. Their eyes meet. Clint doesn't ask where he was, doesn't question, just nods. A silent acknowledgement. Kyle made a choice, and he chose right. Bloodwork wraps in May 2002. The final day of production is emotional for everyone, but especially for Kyle, because he did it. He made it through without relapsing, without destroying his father's film, without proving everyone right who said he couldn't be trusted. Clint gathers the crew for the traditional rap speech, but instead of talking about the film, he talks about his son. Kyle came onto this film carrying more weight than anyone should have to carry. And he showed up every single day. He worked harder than anyone here. And he reminded me what courage actually looks like. It's not about being fearless, it's about being terrified and showing up anyway. Thank you, Kyle, for fighting, for being here, for teaching an old man what matters. The crew applauds. Kyle tries not to cry, fails. Clint walks over, hugs his son, whispers something nobody else hears. I'm proud of you. Not because you worked on this film, but because you chose life. That's the bravest thing anyone can do. Bloodwork premieres in August 2002. The reviews are mixed. Some critics love it. Others call it conventional. The film makes $50 million domestically. Not a blockbuster, not a failure, just a solid Eastwood film. But for Kyle, the numbers don't matter. What matters is that he survived, that he proved to himself he could be trusted, that he found a way back. In the years that follow, Kyle continues working in the industry. He scores several of his father's films: The Changeling, Gran Torino, Invictus, Hereafter, Jersey Boys, Sully, The Mule. He becomes one of the most respected composers in independent cinema. He stays sober, builds a life, a career, a family. And through it all, Clint is there. Not hovering, not controlling, just present. The way a father should be. In 2018, a journalist from Vanity Fair asks Clint about Kyle, about bringing him onto Bloodwork, about whether he regrets risking his reputation to save his son. Clint looks at the journalist like the question is absurd. Regret? Why would I regret doing the right thing? But you risked everything. Your career, your image. What if it had gone wrong? Then it would have gone wrong. But at least I would have been there. At least I would have tried. Too many fathers abandon their kids the moment things get hard. They hide behind work, behind excuses, behind the idea that tough love means distance. But that's not love. That's cowardice. The journalist pushes. But you're Clint Eastwood. You had a legacy to protect. Clint shakes his head. Legacy is what you leave behind. And I'd rather leave behind a son who's alive and healthy than a filmography that's spotless. My movies will be forgotten eventually. But Kyle will remember. His kids will remember. That's the legacy that matters. The journalist asks one more question. What would you say to other fathers dealing with a child's addiction? Clint thinks for a long moment. Then he says, show up. Don't send them away. Don't hide them. Don't be ashamed. Just show up. Every single day, even when it's hard. Years later, Kyle would say in an interview, my father didn't save me from addiction. He saved me from believing I was alone. And that made all the difference. That's the lesson, not just for fathers. For anyone who loves someone who's struggling. You can't fix them. You can't force them to heal. But you can show up. You can be present. You can remind them that they're worth fighting for. Even when they don't believe it themselves, especially when they don't believe it themselves. Clint Eastwood is 94 years old now, still working, still creating, still showing up. And Kyle is 55, sober for 22 years, a father himself, a composer, a survivor, and the bond between them is stronger than it's ever been. Not because everything is perfect, but because they went through hell together and came out the other side. That's what family is, not the absence of struggle, but the refusal to face it alone. If you're watching this and you're struggling, whether with addiction or something else, remember this. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to show up, one day at a time, one choice at a time. And if you're a parent watching someone you love spiral, remember this. Your presence matters more than your plan. Your attention matters more than your advice. Show up, even when you don't know what to say, even when it feels hopeless. Show up, because that's what Clint Eastwood did, and it saved his son's life. Subscribe if you believe that real strength isn't about never falling. It's about getting back up and helping others do the same. That's the Eastwood way. Silent, steady, present, always present.